Hey, good evening, everybody. Nate Eaton coming to you live from Boise. I am sorry I'm 11 minutes late tonight. I was at home today celebrating kind of our 12th anniversary. And so I made it into town a little bit later, back to Boise, getting ready for week 4 of the Lori Vallow Daybell trial. It starts tomorrow. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff today. Who can we expect on the witness list? What's happening with Lori's wardrobe. Many of you have emailed me and asked about her wardrobe. Mental health. Will mental health be brought up as a defense? I know a lot of you have that question. We'll talk about it. Idaho Rule 404B. This is the rule that Lori's attorneys continually are citing throughout the case as they object to witnesses. We'll break it down. I'll try to explain it as best I can. We will remember JJ, Tylee, Tammy, and Charles, and we will get to your questions. Before we do any of that, it is my 12th anniversary today, mine and Erica's. This is her. This is us on our wedding day. I did have to take a moment and just wish her a happy birthday and publicly say that I love her. That photo there, center at the top, is when we got our marriage license, and I do have to tell you one quick story that just kind of describes our relationship. We stayed at or part of it at least, we stayed at a really nice hotel the night we got married, and then we flew out the next morning to our honeymoon. And this hotel had was known for its buffet breakfast. Like, everybody would go to this hotel for the breakfast. But I told Erica, I said, hey, I heard that Denny's gives new married couples free breakfast for their wedding. And we happened to get married the day before Easter Sunday. So it was Easter Sunday. And instead of going to the buffet, we went to Denny's. And she's like, are you serious? We're spending our first morning as a married couple at Denny's on Easter. And guess what? The meal wasn't even free. We had to pay for it. So she's still stuck with me. Thank goodness. She may have been sick the rest of the day, but we're happily married 12 years later. So happy anniversary, honey. She might be joining us later this week. Okay, I already went through what we're going to talk about today. So far, here's what we've got. 24 witnesses have been called thus far in the case. So I say week 4, really the first week was all jury selection. So that, I guess, technically isn't part of the trial. It is, but it isn't. So the past 2 weeks is when we've really had witnesses and evidence, is when we've really had the trial. And notice that on a few of those days, court has been canceled. We didn't have the trial last Friday or the previous Monday, so we only had 3 days of testimony last week. The week before, there was one really short day because of a death in the family of one of the prosecutors, so it was really kind of just 4 days of testimony. So they are going through these witnesses quite fast. I mean, 24 of them. Some of these witnesses are only on the stand for 5-6 minutes. Some are on all day. Some have been on all day, like Detective Hermosillo, and they have said that they will call him back to the stand. We know that tomorrow, Detective Stubbs with the Rexburg Police Department will be back on the stand. And I believe that the prosecution has more questions for him because we ended the day on Thursday with the body camera footage of when he went to Lori's house to serve the search warrant for JJ. That's how we ended the day. So the prosecution will pick up questioning of him, and then the defense will get to cross-examine him. We don't know exactly who the witnesses are going to be next week, but I do know that people are coming from out of town to Boise. I have heard that. I have confirmed that. And there will be people from out of town to Boise. And when I say out of town, I mean outside of Idaho, because obviously most are coming from out of town because the trial's in Boise and these alleged crimes happened in eastern Idaho. So who could they be? Who could the potential witnesses be? Well, they haven't released a witness list publicly. It's sealed, but the defense knows, the judge knows, and the prosecution knows. And we kind of have an idea based on the witnesses who were called to the grand jury back in 2021. The grand jury is a sealed, secret proceeding. This is not open to the public. And what happens is there are jurors summoned to meet with the prosecutor where really the defense isn't there. As I said, it's sealed. The prosecution lays out all their witness and they have all their witnesses and all their evidence, and they can take their time if they want. They can compact it into a few days if they want, and then the grand jury decides if someone could be charged. It's not up to the prosecutor per se, but it's the grand jury that issues the indictment. So what would be the benefit of this rather than just charging? Well, one, it's private, so not all the evidence gets out. If you'll notice in Chad's hearing back in 2020, that was a preliminary hearing where there was 3 or 4 days of witnesses and evidence, kind of like a mini hearing. The grand jury, we didn't have that for Lori in this one. But the prosecutors did issue a witness list from the grand jury. And this can kind of give us an idea of who we can expect, possibly, more than likely, in the coming days. I want to show it to you. So this was filed back on the 25th of May, 2021. So almost 2 years ago. And here's who was on that list. We have Ray Hermosillo at the top. Well, he's testified. We know he's on there. We've got Ron Ball. He has not testified yet. He's a detective with RPD. He's been in town every day. He has not been in the courtroom. Witnesses are not supposed to sit in the courtroom to listen to other people's testimony, so he'll likely take the stand. Randy Reese, another RPD detective. He's been in the courthouse, not in the courtroom. Dave Stubbs is on the stand now. Joe Powell has testified. Bruce Mattingly, Vince Ka'akamuno. I know how to say it. I swear I do, Vince. I'm sorry. Ka'akamuno. Vince K. Vince K. Rylene Nolan. Don't know who she is. She might testify. Tara Martinez, Angela Yancey, Haley Palmer. Is that what that's it? Palmer. Taylor Ballard, Katie Dace, Chuck Considus. He took the stand already. Mark Sorry. He took the stand. Helena Ka'akamuno. Now, Helena is a dispatcher with Fremont County. She could take the stand. Coulter Cannon. Garth Daybell is Chad's son. Joe Murray. Melanie Pulowski. Zulema Pastenis, David Warwick, those two have taken the stand. So has Melanie Gibb. Steve Daniels, I don't know who that is. Gary Liu, Eric Christensen, Ricky Wright, Garth Warren, Ian Pulowski, Melanie's husband. Audrey Baratario, Ben Dean, he took the stand last week. Lane Kinghorn, Emma Moss, Heather Daybell, Sandra Briggs, Shanna Miller, McKay Abeglin, Jared Wilmore, he took the stand. Christina West, Allie Greenhalgh, and a few more. Cammie Wilmore, Brenda Dye, Mike Douglas, he took the stand, and Doug Hart. Okay, so again, these are not people that will for sure testify in Lori's case, but these are people that did testify at her grand jury proceedings where she was indicted. Assuming these 44 people take the stand, we've been through 24 witnesses, we're about halfway done with the prosecution. Now, they could have more witnesses. They might not call all of this list. And then the defense has their option to call whoever they want. So if we're about halfway done and there's been 2 weeks of testimony and you figure 2 more weeks plus the defense a week, this likely, perhaps, could wrap up by mid-May. And then, of course, the jury has their time to take with coming up with a verdict. So that's kind of an idea of the witnesses. So many of you have been messaging me saying, is Melanie Pulowski going to take the stand? Well, we don't 100% sure know, but I'm pretty sure she is. She testified at the grand jury. So did her husband. I would expect her to take the stand at one point or another. Same with Lori's sister. Is Summer Schiffler going to take the stand? I can expect her that she's going to take the stand sometime or another. Okay, so that's where we're at with witnesses. Should be a full week of testimony as far as we know. And again, we start with detective tomorrow. Okay, another question many of you have had. How come Lori gets to wear nice clothes every day in the courtroom? And where does she get those clothes? She has been dressed quite nice. Business suits, dress pants, nice tops, little suit coats or sweaters. Seems like she has a new outfit every day or almost every day. And let me just say that in a lot of cases, the court will allow the defendant to dress in street clothes, normal clothes. simply because it can create perhaps bias with a jury. If they walk in and they see someone in jail orange striped suits or black and white striped suits, they might have an inherent bias that this person is guilty. And so defense attorneys will often make a request to the court that their defendant wear clothes, street clothes. And Lori has done that at every hearing except in Hawaii. She was in a yellow jumpsuit at that point, but every hearing since then, she has been dressed up. She has worn nicer clothes. And so has Chad. We have never seen them in an actual court hearing where they're in jail outfits. Lori's attorneys asked that she wear normal clothes, and the prosecution did not object, and neither did Judge Boyce. But then cameras were revoked from the courtroom. Remember, the judge removed cameras. And here's an interesting thing filed last October by the prosecution. Maybe? Okay. Can you hear me? For some reason, my computer froze on this end, so I'm going to restart it. It was, actually, I'll just tell you what it is. It was a motion filed. Let me read it to you. Co-defendant Vallow Daybell filed a motion to appear in street clothes on September 9th, 2022. At the time, the state entered no objection to the request, given the fact that the proceedings, or at least portions of them, were being recorded and broadcast. The state was concerned about the potential for jury contamination based on the media presence surrounding the defendant's case. However, since the state filed an initial response, this court has entered an order restricting cameras in the courtroom. Given the new posture of these proceedings in relation to the media's access of images to the defendants, the state's concern regarding jury contamination has been dispelled. And the state would request, absent of finding to deviate from standard procedures, that the defendants no longer be able to appear in street clothes. So Rob Wood and Lindsay Blake filed that last October. They said, we don't want Lori and Chad in street clothes because it's not being broadcast. There's no cameras in there. Of course, we've had a sketch artist there this week, but there's been no other sort of cameras or anything like that. Well, I don't think that motion went anywhere simply because we've seen Lori and Chad in nice street clothes ever since then. But that's the reason that she's in street clothes, and many of you have emailed me about that. You've also asked where she gets the clothes. I have heard that her defense team has helped get the clothes. Some family members have helped get the clothes. Other people closely tied to Lori have helped get the clothes. It's not like she went down to the mall and went shopping, but they were able to go out and pick up her clothes. And I'm sure that there might be moments. I don't know who did the shopping, but do you know how hard it is when I'm asked by my wife to go pick up like socks or something? I'm like, I don't know what socks to choose. So I can't imagine her two male attorneys trying to go shopping for her, but that's where her clothes come from. Okay. So that's the issue. The second issue I wanted to touch on tonight. One more before we get to your questions. Mental illness. Many of you have asked, is Lori going to use the mental illness as a defense for her? Clearly she's mentally ill, or she's insane, or this or that, or are they going to pull a last minute, plea where they go up to the judge and they say, she's not competent for trial. This needs to get taken off. All good questions. Couple things. First, there's no insanity defense in Idaho. So that's off the table. She cannot plead insane. Second, she has been declared incompetent twice. The first time was for about 10 months. She was moved from the jail in Madison County to a facility in northern Idaho where she stayed for 10 months. Doctors evaluated her. There was medication prescribed to her. She ultimately was declared competent again. And how that works is a medical professional could say she's competent, but then the judge needs to say, yes, she's competent. So it's not just a doctor saying she's good. The court has to agree. Here's how they know. It's very simple. Two things. One, does she understand the charges she's facing? And two, can she assist in her defense? That's it. You can be the craziest person on earth. You can have every mental illness imaginable. But if you understand your charges and you can assist in your defense, in the eyes of the law in Idaho, you are competent. Lori appears very much so to be assisting in her defense. Every day I've been in that courtroom directly behind her. She's writing notes. She's talking to her attorneys. She's listening closely to the witnesses. She's watching the evidence in most cases. So she is assisting in her defense just by looking. I mean, unless she's playing hangman or something, I don't know. Does she understand the charges against her? Well, I would imagine she does. But the professionals have said she does. So that's not going to be an issue. Now, her attorneys filed this in January. Look up here. January 3rd. Filed by Jim Archibald and John Thomas. And it says, we come now for the defendant to give notice of their intent, the attorneys for the defendant give notice of their intent not to raise a mental health defense as the guilt phase portion of the trial. Idaho Code provides that a list of witnesses be disclosed at least 90 days prior to trial if the defense intends to call the experts to negate an element of the crime. This advanced disclosure is required for the guilt phase portion of the trial. Point 2. The defendant's mental health has been evaluated and litigated since the first filing in this case. She spent 10 months at a mental health facility in Idaho and received mental health care from the experts employed by the state of Idaho. There we go. My computer's lagging a bit. I'm sorry if it is on your end. Let me know if it's freezing. The Wi-Fi might be an issue in here. Then we know on point 3, the defense hired 3 independent mental health experts to review and evaluate her mental health. 4, due to ongoing mental health concerns while this case has been pending, the court conducted an evidentiary hearing on November 10th to determine if she was competent to stand trial. On the 15th, the court ruled that she was competent to stand trial. Although still suffering from a mental illness, the defendant is taking an active role in her defense. She previously said and reviewed all of the discovery provided to her by the state and her attorneys. Okay, I don't know if you all are seeing this. I hope you can. I'm so sorry. The Wi-Fi here is not the best. I'm just going to have to read this to you. I was hoping you could read it on screen, but I can post a link to it. This is what her attorney said just in January, 3 months ago. Although still suffering from a mental illness, the defendant is taking an active role in her defense. She has previously reviewed all of the discovery provided to her by the state and her attorneys. She has consulted with 3 mental health experts. She does not want to proceed with a mental health defense to negate an element of a crime in this case. She has not authorized her attorneys to proceed with a mental health defense in the guilt phase portion of the trial. Her attorneys are respecting her autonomy and her rights granted to her by the Constitution. If she is found innocent of these crimes, there will be no disclosure of expert witnesses. If she's convicted by a jury, then the defense will call witnesses in support of the mitigation during the sentencing hearing. Well, there will be no sentencing hearing because they took death penalty off the table. So I hope that all makes sense. Basically, her attorneys have said that they met with Lori, and after she went through all the discovery and everything presented to her, she said, no, mental health is not my defense. Her attorneys say in this motion, mental health has been an issue since day one. We've talked about it since day one, but our client, Ms. Daybell, does not want that to be a defense, and so it won't be. So those are some of the main questions I've been getting over the past few days. Why can she wear what she wears? What about her defense? Can she claim that she's mentally ill or insane? She can't. And then the other one is 404B. Now, this is an issue that is coming up with all of the witnesses who have been called thus far from the Arizona law enforcement in connection to Charles's murder, his death, alleged murder, I should say. So what is Idaho 404B? What happens is the witnesses have been called up and they'll say, can you state and spell your name for the record? My name is Detective Nathan Moffat from the Chandler Police Department. And then Lori's attorneys, once questioning begins, will say, Your Honor, I object to this witness's testimony based on Idaho 404B. And Judge Boyce has said, I acknowledge that. We had a hearing about that back in February, and it was closed. So I don't know what happened in that hearing. But what I do know is that, I'm pulling up the code right now, Idaho Rule 404B. So what I do know is that her attorneys are saying they don't want this admitted into court because of this. And I'm going to make this big and hopefully you can see it. Okay. 404B. So this is Idaho Rules of Evidence, character evidence, crime, or other acts. And I'm going to see if I can make this bigger. If you can, I hope that helps. Maybe. 404B, prohibited uses. Evidence of a crime, wrong, or other act is not admissible to prove a person's character in order to show that on a particular occasion, the person acted in accordance with the character. So the defense seems to be saying, the defense seems to be arguing what the state is doing by having witnesses in Arizona testify about how Lori Vallow acted the day Charles was shot. We know how she acted. We've seen the videotape. She's pretty nonchalant about the whole thing. The defense is saying, okay, the state is bringing this in. Charles' death, in their eyes, has nothing to do with the deaths here, the deaths of JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. That's an Arizona crime. She's facing charges in Arizona for that. That should not be brought up here. And you can't say, look at her character there. Look how she was acting there and admit it here into Idaho. That is my reading on it. So the judge has said that, okay, we acknowledge that. I acknowledge that, but it's overruled. And he's let all of the witnesses in. Now, maybe this becomes an issue on an appeal, if there is an appeal, and there probably will be an appeal, that, oh, judge, you should have never let that testimony in, and maybe they have to throw out all the Arizona witnesses. I don't know how that works. I'm pretty sure that her attorneys are just saying, we need to get this on the record that we opposed all of these Arizona witnesses. And I think we probably will continue to see that when the Arizona crimes are brought in. I hope I explained that, and I hope that that made sense, because I'm not familiar with every line of Idaho code, but I hope that helps. All right, so I have a lot of questions here from you all. I hope that I can get to them, but before we do, I want to play this wonderful, cute little video that somebody sent me. One of you sent me. Tylee Ryan had a YouTube page. And this is her with her friends. I like to not lose focus about the victims when I do these shows, Courtroom Insider. So we want to talk about Tammy and JJ and Tylee and Charles. And this is a fun little video that Tylee made with her friends. I don't know the date on it, but I just wanted to play you a snippet so you could see what type of a girl Tylee Ryan was.
So, we are doing the 7-second challenge for 5 rounds. Play 1 and play 2. And we are going to see who can do better things in 7 seconds. And I will win.
Okay, Lexi's going to go first, so let's see what it is. Do a dance while looking extremely upset. The music to JJ's iPad is perfect for this.
Okay, round 2. Okay. Or Tylee's turn. Say a secret that nobody knows. Ready? Go!
I don't know. I don't want to say anything on camera. This is very stressful. I fail. Okay, bye. Name 5 apps on your phone. Ready, set.
Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, 1010, and 100 pics! Yes! Break into song around your surrounding. About your surroundings. Ready, go.
I don't know. I'm so bad at this. Wait, can we restart? Nope.
No.
Okay. Make up a chorus for a country and western song. Really?
Tammy, that one girl who looks just like Tylee. But that was Tylee and her friend making these videos, having fun, as most teenagers do. And it's sad that she's not here to do that anymore. She has quite a bit of fun content on her YouTube channel and her Instagram pages. So tonight we remember Tylee and JJ and Charles and Tammy. Okay, let's get to your questions. Let me know where you're watching from, wherever you are. I love to see where you all are from. And I can't thank you enough if you have emailed me or messaged me. I just haven't had enough time to get back to everybody, but I appreciate it. Please, okay, here we go. I'm going to start at the bottom of the list tonight. Laura, what was the medication that Lori asked the nanny to give JJ to help him sleep? Did she give it to him? Good question. I don't remember the name of the medication, but I might have it here. I do know that the nanny did not give it to him because when Lori got back in time and she was still awake, or JJ was still awake. Let me look. There was some, here we go, medication that was seized. It was Lori said it was medicine that would help him calm down, help JJ calm down, and help him sleep. So we have, I don't remember the name of it, but here we go. But here's the interesting thing. It was a prescription medication, and the detective testified the other day that they had no evidence that any prescriptions had been filled, and in JJ's name in several states, including Idaho, Montana, Hawaii, and Arizona. And that was another thing I didn't mention the other day. Why Montana? Because there was no real tie to Montana, but the detective said that they got a tip early on that seemed pretty reputable that the kids were at a compound in Montana. That turned out not to be the case, obviously, but they did want to check to see if there was medication in there. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't have the name of the medication, but it was something to calm him down. It was a prescription medicine, and Lori had not filled it. And I do remember Kay Woodcock saying in an interview that when she saw JJ on the doorbell camera footage that the neighbor caught around this time when the babysitter was there, she was very concerned with how JJ was acting and knew that had he taken his medicine, he wouldn't have been acting as he was. So that was it. If the jury believes Lori really believes this stuff, I wonder if she creates an issue for conviction. That's from Melanie. I don't know, Melanie. That's a good question. The jurors have to go based on what they hear and see in court. Nothing else. They can't go based on what their mom said or what they saw on the news or anything. It's got to be what they see and hear only in the courtroom. Jasmine, when Chad and Lori went to Knott's Berry Farms with Chad's kids, did they realize Chad and Lori were together? Was this before or after Tammy died? This was at Thanksgiving. Tammy died at mid-November, November 19th. So, yes, they knew Chad and Lori were together because they met Lori, I think, 2 or 3 days after their mom's funeral. And then Chad and Lori were there, and they said that Chad, it was a woman that Chad had met on business or something like that, and they instantly connected. And then after the trip to Knott's Berry Farm, Chad and Lori flew to Hawaii while Chad's kids flew home. Another big question I'm getting is, what do Chad's kids think about all of this? I have no idea. If they're watching, I'd love to talk to you on or off the record, but they have been supportive of him. I don't know if things have changed. I don't know if they're following the trial. I have no idea. Will Lori's niece, Melanie, testify? Heather asks. Yes, I imagine so. I can't say for 100% certain, but I would imagine so. Melanie, when Lori speaks to her attorney, do they speak back to her or ignore her? They speak back to her. I mean, a lot of it is stuff, like a whisper, and then they acknowledge it, like, yeah. Or during the breaks, they'll talk. There's probably times where they might ignore her. I have seen one of her attorneys tell her to be quiet because she was so talky. If Lori gets tried in Arizona and convicted, could she get the death penalty there? That's from Jim. Yes, Arizona does have the death penalty, and she could get it. Is Lori receiving therapy? I don't believe so. I don't believe so. I know she's met with therapists or mental health experts, but I don't think she's continued to receive therapy. I could be wrong. Why does East Idaho News always choose glamour shots of Lori? Is this for clicks? That's from Jamie. I don't know if it's for clicks. It's the pictures we have. I guess we could put up her mugshot every time, but does a mugshot really tell who somebody is versus the pictures we get at other times? I mean, we try to rotate through the photos we have. I wouldn't say they're all glamour shots. I don't know if that's a glamour shot. I guess it just depends on your opinion, but no, I don't know if it's just for clicks. I mean, I don't know. We try to rotate through the photos. We have a lot of photos, and we just go through our library. I wish we had more photos. Now we have the sketches, so we'll go through them. If Lori's found guilty, is it possible for her to receive life without parole? Yes. If so, can she appeal that ruling? Yes. Yes and yes. You mentioned a text from Seth Daybell found by the FBI, but not the context, anything big. I don't know. Maybe I mentioned a text, but what they did when the police went into the house, when the sheriff's office went into the house, is they seized a bunch of electronics and other devices, and they put them on. They transferred all the contents to like Blu-ray discs. So one of the discs was labeled Seth Daybell, and it was likely all of the stuff from his phone. And then the other disc was Tammy Daybell, and that's the stuff they went through in court, where they read the text that Chad sent to Tammy about the raccoon. So they didn't go into what the contents were on Seth's phone. We don't know much about him. And there could have been one other text on there. I just don't remember. Will JJ and Tylee finally be put to rest after Lori's trial, or do they have to wait till Chad's trial too? They have to wait until Chad's trial, from everything I understand, because the defense has a right to test the bodies themselves. If there's a dispute about the cause of death or evidence collected off the bodies or whatever, if the bodies are already buried elsewhere, they have a right to test it. I imagine they could do the same thing with Tammy Daybell, have her exhumed again. You hate to talk about bodies being evidence, but that's kind of the truth of the matter. So that would be an issue, though, for the prosecutor and the court to decide. Trish says, I caught on a text between Lori and Alex of Lori asking Alex to bring eggs to her apartment in Rexburg. I looked into what eggs meant on a pharmaceutical level, and it's Valium. Have you heard this? Yes, I have heard that. I have not heard anything more than that, though, but I believe that was in one hearing or texts or something. That there could have been something. But that's about the extent of it. We have not heard much evidence about any drugs in this case. Like when police searched the house, if they found drugs or Valium or whatever, prescription pads. We haven't heard that. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but so far that hasn't been the case. Glenn says, please explain demonstrative evidence. For instance, when they showed an air view of Chad's residence, they said it was for demonstrative purposes. So what they do is there's demonstrative to just show versus actual evidence. So a map, unless it was a map taken that day at that time when the crime was committed, it wouldn't be considered technical evidence. They would show the demonstrative, the exhibit to the jury saying, this is just to demonstrate. This isn't the actual evidence. I hope that makes sense. For instance, the PowerPoint presentations that have been displayed by some of these detectives, they compile their evidence and put it in the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint presentation is not the actual evidence. It's the thing that's on it. Or it might just be a demonstration to show the map. Walgreens, JJ's school, the house, Burger King. That might be how they map it out. So there is the demonstrative stuff that comes up and shows up on the screen. And then there's actual evidence that they will say, we are admitting this for evidence, this exhibit for evidence, versus we are admitting this for demonstrative purposes. All right, great questions. Y'all are so smart. We'll be back tomorrow, 7:30 Mountain Time, Boise time. Let me know where you're watching from. Please, if you want to, follow me along on Facebook, Twitter. I live tweet every minute from the trial, and literally almost every minute. You can follow me on Instagram. You can follow us, East Idaho News, on YouTube. That's where we post all of the audio right when we get it. And we try to make it easy for you to find by day and date and witness name and whatnot. And if you're watching and you want to wish Erica, my wife, a happy anniversary, I would love that, because she can go through and she can read that as the time goes on. Also, please feel free to submit your questions if you're watching this later, because we go through during the day. My wonderful, wonderful colleague Peggy goes through and pulls all the questions and compiles them, and there's just so many that I can't get through them all, but we'll try to get through them as the days go on. And we have another week of testimony as we inch closer and closer to a verdict. All right, I thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great week. I hope you had a great weekend. It's finally warming up here. Yay, spring might be here. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.